We are in the midst of finding out who qualifies for this Canadian bonus. I don't know what to call it. It's a rebate. Okay. We found Working Canadians rebate. We think this is the correct title that they've given to this rebate. They're giving money away. The Liberals are giving money away right now. Can you tell it's in an election year?
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. Oh, I guess it's not this year. It'll be next year, but
Yeah, this is the time to buy
next
the
year's in
votes.
weeks. Yeah, next year is in a matter of weeks. So,
Oh,
yeah, it's 200. So, you were just saying Canadians who worked in 2023 with net earnings up to $150,000.
yeah,
It says
yeah.
starting early spring, though. So, what is this other one that people are getting? Is there one?
I'm finding some articles here that were more along the lines of what you were suggesting, where
Yeah.
this one from the Toronto Star, Liberals still have no plan to get you the 250,000 the $250 they promised. Fate of $250 checks uncertain as Freeland laments lack of support.
Huh. And so, Chrystia Freeland resigned this week, right?
Mm,
I know
yes.
we try not to go super political, but I screenshotted her resignation letter. If I may, I would like to share it.
Yeah, and real quick here, we're
Yeah.
talking about the same thing. It's that workers rebate,
Okay.
whatever. Yeah, it's
Okay.
the same thing. It's the same
Okay.
thing.
It
All right, let's
sounds like
hear.
it's active. So, December 16th, 2024, she addresses the Prime Minister and says, "It has been the honor of my life to serve in government, working for Canada and Canadians. We have accomplished a lot together. On Friday, you told me you no longer wanted me to serve as your finance minister and offered me another position in the cabinet, which isn't that a constructive demotion? Is that what they call that?
Uh the word I know is lateral move, and
Lateral move. Oh, that sounds way more positive.
yeah, the only way a lateral move, I mean, even then it's not a lateral move if going into that position gets you more exposure, more experience, different
Mm-hmm.
points on your evaluation, whatever you use. But yeah, going from deputy minister and because she's like the vice
She
president of Canada.
Yeah, she is. I'll continue
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
we can elaborate more, but
Smart.
I just felt like that line was very important because I feel like it's what triggered this resignation. Upon reflection, I have concluded the only honest and viable path is for me to resign from the cabinet. To be effective, a minister must speak on behalf of the prime minister and with his full confidence. In making your decision, you made it clear that I no longer credibly enjoy that confidence and possess the authority that comes with it. This is a loaded sentence to me.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's a professional way of saying, uh,
how dare you?
no, I don't even think she's saying how dare you.
Okay.
I think she's saying it's basically I think she's saying fuck you.
A lack of trust, and yeah,
Yeah, I've worked my ass off for you and this is how you repay me. You can go fuck yourself.
right. Yes. For the past number of weeks, you and I have found ourselves at odds about the best path forward for Canada, which I'm so curious about. What are the many points at which they were at odds? I wish I was a fly on the
Yeah,
wall.
seriously.
Our country today faces a grave challenge. The incoming administration in the United States is pursuing a policy of aggressive economic nationalism, including a threat of 25% tariffs. That's huge. This is going to be it's going to dismantle us, right? Like I see this being a major economic problem.
Yeah, everything already costs so much more for us already.
Yeah, we can't afford 25%. Anyways, we need to take that threat extremely seriously. That means keeping our fiscal powder dry today so we have the reserves we may need for the coming tariff war. That means eschewing costly political gimmicks. which we can ill afford and which make Canadians doubt we recognize the gravity of the moment. So I'm reading between the lines here that she's like, we need to just cut the shit, tighten up our bootstraps, and like be very conservative with our finances at the moment. But is that also what you read between the lines, or is this a miss?
I think you're right. I think it can mean I mean, it's classic that a politician wrote a letter that's difficult to nail down. You know what I mean?
it's it's clear as mud. Yeah.
I was watching a clip the other day of Jagmeet Singh, and
Oh yeah, I think Jordan sent this to me, and it was so frustrating to watch.
well,
No.
this is the one where the lady tries to, yeah, she tries
Yep.
to, she asked him a question just
Vote
for the,
of non-confidence.
yeah, she said, are you going to commit to a vote of non-confidence, basically saying, hey, are you going to have an election happen real soon, or
Mm-hmm.
are you going to wait for the election cycle? And he just kept saying, an election's going to happen, an election's going to happen, an election's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I understand, like, they have to give themselves maneuver space. They can't box themselves into a corner because then they can't do their
Yeah.
jobs.
He
I
can't
get
be
that.
like, I'm gonna push for an election on January 16th upon return. Like, I don't know when they return to
And
cabinet, but like, yeah, you
I don't
know,
even know if it's a better option, but to say something like, cur- currently, I would move for a vote of non-confidence, unless the situation changed.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why we can't have honest conversations, or just say what we mean. But her
yeah.
letter is obviously a professionally. I wonder if ChatGPT got involved. Um,
That is a question
Super
to
professional
ask all
letter,
questions.
but I don't
Okay,
think
there's
about it
more.
from that point of view, because was she supporting the $250 payment?
I'm not sure. I'm
Well,
not sure.
I mean, she ought to have been if she's the deputy minister. Like, I'm sure she's voting whichever way the prime minister votes
Right.
on these things. But
Okay, so she
I,
goes on to say, if I may,
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
that means pushing back against America First economic nationalism with a determined effort to fight for. Sorry, I screenshotted it, so it's blurred. Um, for something and investment and the jobs they bring. Um, that means working in good faith and humility with the premiers of provinces and territories of our great and diverse country and building a true Team Canada response. I know Canadians would recognize and respect such an approach. They know we are working for them, and they equally know when we are focused on ourselves. Inevitably, our time in government will come to an end. How we deal with the threat our country currently faces will define us for a generation and perhaps longer. Um, Canada will win if we are strong, smart, and united. It is this conviction which has driven me strenuous efforts this fall to manage our spending in ways that will give us the flexibility we will need to meet the serious challenges presented by the United States. I will always be grateful for the chance to have served in government. I will always be proud of our government's work for Canada and Canadians. I look forward to continuing to work with my colleagues as a Liberal Member of Parliament, and I am committed to running again for my seat in Toronto in the next federal election. This was all super, like you said, written so politically, um but I feel is very telling of the state in which our government finds itself.
I agree.
um so many ministers, including her, resigned over the last, I think they said, 9 months. There's been a huge shuffle, and now he's like pretty much had to rebuild his cabinet, which is insane because it's like coming around to an election in the fall, like in October. It seems like, what the hell are you even going to accomplish over the course of 10 months when you're
Yeah.
also going to be campaigning to, I don't want to say for re-election. I don't think he can be re-elected. Is that true?
I don't think we have term limits in Canada.
We don't.
So, like, he could be prime minister for as long as he's the head of the Liberal Party, and
Oh,
Liberal Party has majority. seats or a minority government. One thing that's interesting, and this is kind of on the heels of what you mentioned earlier, this is a CBC article. She says she felt she had to quit. This is Freeland because the
Hmm.
prime minister had lost faith in her ability as finance minister and wanted to
Wow.
assign her a new role after
Yeah.
she fought decisions that widened the deficit well beyond what she'd previously promised. So it almost reads to me like she has been trying to manage the budget,
Hmm.
keep the deficit lower,
Hmm.
but a lot of his decisions are forcing them to spend money that they don't have.
Our deficit
It,
inflating.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
I don't know if that's clever reporting to make it sound like he's putting the blame of his bad decisions on her, and she's got to
I
wear it.
I'm getting, yeah, from the way it's worded, I'm getting that message.
It's
If
giving
that is, yes, it
betrayal.
is. Yes, betrayal. Um, I think that it's a it's a team effort though. Like
Well, that's it.
if that is what actually transpired, I feel like it would be very unwise of him to have done that. Like
Yeah.
she I was saying this to Cheryl last night. I was like, she stood by him for like the entire time he's been prime minister, through all his good and bad decisions, a lot of bad decisions. And like he's like actively divorcing his wife. Like I don't know if that's transpired, but like they separated. I know in Canada you have to separate for a year to be able to file for divorce. So you have to
That's brutal.
you have to like live through the separation period, and then you can officially divorce. But like she's been by his side through this huge change in his life and like supported him, and then for him to kind of say, I don't trust you in this position anymore, I want to put you in a different position. It just, what the heck? Like I if it were me, I'd feel like blindsided, and I think that her actions were justified.
I'm hoping too that because I agree with everything you just said, and
Okay.
well, yeah, I agree.
You're like
Well, I got to be careful
80%.
because I'm like, I'm not supposed to talk about politics because I'm in the army, but this isn't
Okay.
really talking about the government. We're just talking about the
Her
relationships.
yeah, her I don't want to say her feelings about the position, but like her reaction, we'll say,
Yeah, because
to
it's pretty big news
the news. Yeah.
for a deputy head of state to give up that position. You know what I mean?
Right?
Uh,
That's massive.
and I think beyond her very professional letter, there's a part of me that hopes that she just spoke her mind to whoever she was speaking to, and
Right.
you know what I mean? Like very professional on the outside. I'm going to tell you what I really think on the inside, and I think it's quite clear too. On an international stage, everyone kind of understands what's going on. So even
Hmm.
though like it looks like one person is taking the blame, or maybe she was asked to resign or something like that, and this letter was her response to that, like I'll resign from this position, but you're going to get more than you bargained for, kind of thing. I don't know. I'm glad she did,
Interesting.
and to be
Yeah.
quite honest, like where my head goes is, uh, if what we're suggesting isn't indeed what has transpired, and that she stood by him, fucking hand in hand, united front, mom and dad have got this kind of a deal, and then
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I think anyone would be frustrated if you were working for someone for that long who just continue to just push the yardstick just a little bit forward every time, so you're never quite making it,
Hmm.
and just a little bit changing the plan, just a little bit changing what you said, so that
Hmm.
all of a sudden what you bargained for is a completely different look in the rearview mirror than what you're
Hmm.
staring at right now. And I
Hmm.
feel bad for her from that point of view. Like it's as assuming that there's a part of any politician that does this for the right reasons and they truly care about Canadians,
Hmm.
um, that's a tough thing to have to do.
Yeah, I
You're
agree.
just someone's shoe mat for a couple years, and then you got to give it all up by resigning because he just drove you nuts. You know what I mean? That'd be fucking so frustrating.
I I don't want to say I equate it to, but like there's a lot of talk of his phony feminism, which I don't want to say I've been vocal about. Like I remember saying this to Jordan fairly early in his uh like after he was elected. I recall learning about different styles of politicians,
Okay.
and one of them was described as the fox in the hen house.
Mm.
And so he dresses up like the people, he wants to act like the people, he wants to pretend he's
The
just like them.
fox.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
fox does. So that the hens trust and believe and whatever, and we the people are the hens.
Oh yeah.
And then eventually you see through the disguise and realize, oh, this person is just as crooked as all the other
I've
politicians
been
that we've ever
duped.
had. Yeah. Um and I think it's possible that this might be where Canada's at this point. Like from everything I read,
That's a
there's so many
really,
people
really
pushing.
great comparison. I think that
Yeah, I
describes it
can't
very nicely.
like it must have been a politics class in high school. Like our teacher was super uh very succinct in the way he taught us, and like tried to just make it plain language. Because he's like, you guys may never be interested in this or work in this or whatever, but you will still be voters
Yeah.
eventually, and you
Hmm.
should have some basic knowledge of like how politics operate, how politicians operate, how the system operates. Anyways, so very good teacher. Um, anyways, and where am I getting at with this? Yeah, I think people are just like tired of being fooled,
Oh, I
maybe,
see.
and maybe feeling fooled, you know. So,
It's like a shame on, or fool me
oh, fool me
once.
once. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, yeah. It's funny you mentioned the bit about feminism because the CBC article has a section about that, and uh,
Which is shocking because CBC is traditionally a very pro-liberal
yeah,
publication. So for them, when CBC starts getting
yeah,
gripey about the
yeah.
liberals, I'm like, oh, times are dire and
Times
ugly.
are tough.
Yeah.
On this, the writer from this article is someone named Rihanna Schmunk.
Hello,
Hopefully, I'm pronouncing
Anna
that
Schmunk.
correctly. Anyway, Schmunk writes, uh,
It's almost as good as Shroot.
the quote here is, the same week as Trudeau was insulting Americans for not electing a woman president. And you heard what he said. It wasn't like
I
outrageous,
read
but
I read what he
for
said.
the
He was
second
like, once
time,
again,
yeah.
Americans overlook the opportunity to elect their first female president.
So, well, just to finish,
Anyways,
the
that's a
same week,
whole different
yeah,
conversation. Yeah.
the same week as he was doing that, he was busy throwing his own woman deputy prime minister under the bus to replace her with a man. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure if that part's accurate or not, but the
He has
comparison is
she
interesting.
has been replaced by a man. Yeah. Was that the plan initially? I don't know, but
It's hard to know. MP Melissa
he's
Lanceman, who is a conservative from Thornhill,
okay.
referred to an old boys club being in charge.
Huh.
So that's kind of what you were, I'm assuming, alluding to there. Like, was it planned to be that so that, you know what I mean? I don't
There,
know. Who knows?
who
Who
knows?
knows?
Yeah.
It's fucking wild. Politics is
There's
crazy.
it's the Wild West out there right now. I feel a little bit politically.
I feel like the
Um,
craziest part of it all is there's so much up in the air about any political situation that's plausible.
yep.
Even there's like some, and that's why I love conservative or conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy,
I love
conservative
conservative
theories.
theories. It's just nice to have a nice tight box to fit
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts in,
Mm-hmm.
um, because there's always an element of truth in them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then where they branch off is where it gets interesting. But I wouldn't be surprised if, I don't know how deep Canada's deep state could be. I feel like it's knee deep compared to the U.S. It's like the
Yeah.
Marianas Trench over there, but
It is the Marianas Trench of, yeah.
deceit and collusion and
Yeah.
confuse the
There's
people.
been so many movies and shows about it, like that it must be based in some sort of form of reality, right? Like,
Bizarro. Yeah.
yeah. So pray for us all, I guess. Like there's political unrest in so many places. Um Last night at my in-laws on the news, they were also talking about how like Putin had his like, I guess he does like a year-end wrap up, like what we accomplished this year as the
I think
Russians.
that's where Spotify got their year in review wrap up idea from.
100%.
Was from Putin.
Trending. And
That's why our monthly price just went up. Fuck.
Spotify, how rude. Um and sorry, what was I gonna say? He does this like annual wrap up, and then he was basically saying like he should have invaded Ukraine so much sooner. And I was like, you're actively in war and you're like super proud of yourself about it. Like, I'm confused. Like most nations are like, we're at war, things are not well. This is conflict. Like we need resolution. And he's just like, no, we're just gonna continue war.
I think it's a
What?
really Russian attitude though.
I suppose, yeah,
and
but
and it's I mean, it's hard, I think, in North America for us to appreciate the influence of culture.
okay.
Well, first of all, we
Say
eroded,
more.
like eradicated all the culture that existed here when Europeans showed up, so that was really
Okay.
hard. Plus it
Okay.
was just a really, I don't
Yeah,
know,
we pretty much stomped that out. Yeah.
less than like 300, I don't know how many, 267, 280, I don't know how old Canada is.
Mm-hmm.
But the history of North America,
The colonized version of Canada.
yeah, the history of the colonized version of Canada,
Oh, I'm not sure.
I feel like
Is it even
it's,
that old?
I don't know. The point
Didn't
is
we
it's,
just celebrated like 150 a couple of years ago, a handful of years ago,
yeah,
I think.
fucking, why we have the internet here? Why am I guessing?
What are we what are we
How
even doing?
old is Canada? 157 years old as of
Okay.
July 1st. Okay, so,
Okay.
but Russia, how old is Russia?
6 million years.
The traditional start date for Russian history is 862.
862.
Yeah. The Russia we know today was created in 1991 after the collapse of the Soviet Union, making
Oh,
it
right.
31 years old. But as and which is interesting is Rus's began in Kiev, which is the capital city of Ukraine.
Of Ukraine, yeah.
So there's like
So
the,
this is why they want to reclaim their motherland,
well,
quote
that's an
unquote.
element of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay.
They're, I think they cover something like 11 time zones in Russia.
Yeah, because it spans Europe to Asia.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, it's an enormous
And their
piece of
whole
land.
history is I mean, their whole history is war. Their whole
Mm-hmm.
history is fighting. And
Mm-hmm.
there's something that Russia's really good at that North America is not very good at,
Hardy people. Yeah, sorry.
is they're really good at playing the long game.
Okay.
So like they don't,
Yeah.
they're not looking for, like, North American politics, it's all about quick wins.
Mm-hmm.
Let's show the immediate return on investment as soon as
Mm-hmm.
possible to show that
Mm-hmm.
my decision was right. Whereas
Immediate
in,
gratification.
yeah, and in Russia and a lot of, European, Asian societies, it's,
Mm-hmm.
they're in it for the people, and so
Mm-hmm.
they're willing to play by different rules. So yeah, maybe
Like
you're saying like, I
communism.
can't believe he's saying these. I can't believe he's happy to be at war. I'm like, God, I mean, they've been happy to be at war for so long, and to like at least he,
Hmm.
and obviously some people there are, I think it's really difficult for us as North Americans to get out of our heads and get into their heads.
Totally, because we've not really had war here. We've had some internal conflicts and like a major war that lasted so long, and like people's houses, you know what I mean? Like to the scale of what they've experienced in
Yeah.
Europe and Asia overall is so different than
Well, and so
here,
yeah, since
anything we've ever seen.
862,
Yeah.
since antiquity, any
Yes.
country that's ever existed has
The
had to
olden
fight
days.
for its territory and
Mm-hmm.
defend its territory. Whereas,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, North America did a little bit. They had their Civil War and their War of Independence.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, North America, Canada was, in a few small conflicts. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, at the end of the day, Canada's borders have never been attacked.
This
Canada's
is
borders
it.
have never had to be defended.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's really difficult for us to appreciate why he's so eager and keen to do what he's doing,
Mm-hmm.
because we have
No
almost no
perspective.
ability, yeah, to, I don't know, it's a weird one. I think you can
Fair.
understand it conceptually, but to appreciate it
Yeah.
culturally or,
Yeah.
I don't know, spiritually, I don't know what you want to say. You know what I mean?
It's true, and I think this what you just said applies to many different things and aspects of life. I think overall, until you've lived it, it's very difficult to have an appreciation and an opinion of it that is valid in a
Mm,
way. Like,
yeah.
eh, you know, I think of an easy one. Becoming a parent is a big one. Something changes fundamentally and actually in our brains when we become parents. And so you can't perceive what that's going to be like before then,
Hmm.
because I forget. I think it's in the amygdala. Anybody listening to this who knows the facts very well can debunk me, but I think it's the amygdala, like the animal part of our brain, has this
Emotions, memory, and behavior.
has this like it basically gets turned on. The light goes on in this part of the brain when I think it's as soon as a woman becomes pregnant for women, and then once the baby is born for men, which is why men and women have a very different response. And I'm very sorry if I'm offending anybody by not using like the whatever inclusive pronouns and terminology, but this is just how I learned it, so this is what I'm regurgitating. Um but yeah, I feel like that's what happens in the brain,
Mm,
and that's undeniable. And they say the more exposure, so like I think of, they use the example of uh two, like a gay couple, two guys can, their amygdala can develop the same way a biological mothers would, simply by being exposed to the baby
right.
more. So
Hmm.
like the more you hold the baby, the more you nurture and take care and respond to their needs, like the more that part of your brain grows. And I think that's one, fascinating, and two, an undeniable fact that like you change fundamentally. And so
Yeah.
if we were to compare this to something like our country being at war, your brain is processing information and events and trauma in ways that if you've never been exposed to that, how could you know or understand, right? Like you could liken it to something else, but the same way that people like to liken being a pet parent to being a human parent,
She
which is,
said, thinly hiding her disdain.
yeah, thinly veiled disdain. Like you can love your pet so much, but they don't change your brain chemistry, right? So, um, I'm sure that these events, like people are living in Russia and Ukraine, and like I think of like the Palestinian and Israel Palestine conflict, um, and so many others that are happening in the world right now, um, will like fundamentally change the humans that are exposed to it.
Yeah. And like,
How could you understand if you're not there? You don't know, right?
and also how that imprints on like the genetic evolution of a people.
Mm-hmm.
When
Yeah.
for hundreds of generations, you grew up in a house where people came and went because they were going away to fight battles, and they
Okay.
may or may
Yeah.
not have come back,
Yeah.
and that was just like the way of the world. You know, you grew up in a
Yeah.
combative environment, you were raised that way, and it's just generation and generation and generation. And then next thing you know, you're like, oh yeah, we should probably get Ukraine back.
Should probably go
Hey,
fight
we've been sitting
for
on this one
something.
for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we caught our breath after the whole social
Cold.
club we tried.
I was gonna say
Yeah,
Cold War thing.
Cold War.
I was oh shoot, you just made me think of something. Oh, the like the genetic piece to this. They are now, I don't say proving, but there has been a lot of talk and maybe research, and they're now saying that this is like professional researchers, scientists, smart people, um that our DNA holds the trauma, and maybe it's not just trauma, but like is imprinted by the um
Like
not
someone else's
memories.
past trauma.
Yes, so like that codes into your DNA and genetics to like, well, we are, I think that's why people have like so much pride and stuff for like, so I don't say everyone, but like a lot of people have so much pride for where they're from,
Yeah.
or for the job that they do. Like if you think of I don't want to say an example in my family, but like this could be a similar thing. My grandfather was a police officer. My uncle became a police officer.
Yeah.
Uh, they didn't have to do that, but like I wonder if that was part of it. There was like a sense of like familiarity and whatever, and I'm sure like there are tons of families and stories like this where it's like, great uncle so and so
Yeah.
was a shoemaker, and what's the technical term for that?
Cobbler.
A cobbler. And so his son became a cobbler and his daughter became a cobbler, and then, well, you know what I mean? It goes on and on. So yeah, there's some link to generational trauma and the things that our past and ancestors imprint on us somehow through
So
DNA.
I found it out.
Okay,
So
tell us.
our DNA is just all of our genes,
Mm-hmm.
and our genes are coded, and they're either on or they're off. So they're being
Mm-hmm.
expressed or they're not being expressed. And we often think that our sort of our gene expression is set. Like this
Like you're
gene
born
needs.
this way, you stay forever this way.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
This happens when a person experiences trauma, their body may adjust gene expression, which is known as an epigenetic change. It doesn't alter the DNA itself, but rather how the gene is expressed. And then the epigenetic changes can be passed down to a person's children. And
Okay.
uh,
So how they respond, the response
so, like,
style.
trying to think of an example of genes on and off. It's like your fight or flight response as an
Okay.
example.
Yep.
So if you grew up in an environment where you were supported, you were loved, you were fed, you were clothed, you were educated, you felt like you belonged, you felt accepted,
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like part of a community, part of something,
Mm-hmm.
then I would suggest that you're probably going to grow up feeling pretty confident in yourself and in how you would respond to random or traumatic situations. And so maybe you would have a fight,
Okay.
kind of like, I'm going to stand, I'm going to face this, I got this kind of thing.
Okay.
um but if you experience the opposite, then maybe you'd be a very anxious, very skittish individual who's afraid of a lot of things.
Okay.
um if you started off as one, and then through the course of fighting, decades of battles, you develop
Mm-hmm.
some sort of trauma response, and your
Mm-hmm.
genes express themselves differently. I don't know. I don't know that the fight or flight response
Yeah.
and gene expression is a good example. I don't know that it's related to gene expression.
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out how. Uh,
Well, if we look up like what circumstances would change how our genes express.
well, and it says here, like, these changes are not definitive, but rather adaptable and can be rewritten by our own life experiences and actions. And like,
Okay.
to a certain,
So is that what we're saying? Like, therapy really does dismantle generational trauma?
I mean, I wouldn't say therapy does. This is,
Right.
I don't know. I
Okay.
worry that I'm getting pedantic. You're right, it does,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's the right kind of
Yeah.
therapy, because you're right. Like, you grow up, and this is something that I never really understood. But everything that you receive, you just take for face value. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is what this stuff is. But below that, your brain is making connections to stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and so you're learning all of these habits. And if you're in a situation where you have to be something or be someone that you're not developmentally able to be for any reason, you create that person
Mm-hmm.
to solve the problem for you. And so that could
Mm-hmm.
be an example of gene expression changing, right? I
Okay.
used to be a really vivacious, outgoing person, and then I was traumatized, and now I don't express that way. I'm not a happy person. My
I have a example to
Sorry, you
share.
froze a bit too. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I got very excited and I didn't want to cut you off, but I'm also scared to forget. Um I was listening to a podcast and one of the hosts was talking about how he contracted a very like unknown STD at 20 or 21, something like that. And he went from being like a hoarder, a slob, a complete dirtbag, his words, to having OCD. And it completely changed how he lives. Like he has almost nothing in his apartment now. Like he's also almost 40, so like a lot of time has passed, but he immediately developed this sense of like everyone's disgusting including me, and we're all dirty and despicable and nothing's clean and I'm going to get disease again if I don't protect myself. And like he said it just completely rewired his
Yeah,
brain.
I feel like that makes sense. I'm wondering
Yeah.
if, like, another example is, my gene expression for hair is brown. I don't know. I
Oh,
don't know if trauma could do this, but some people, like,
they get the white streak.
you get white streaks. Like, I mean, that could be an
Interesting.
example.
I did not
Um,
even think of that.
but yeah, it's trippy, and your point is right. Therapy can undo generational trauma. I think the real secret to breaking through any trauma is just, I don't know, having a grounded understanding of what reality is, what your reality is. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I think so much of what traumatizes us is, and to be clear, like, there's big T and little T trauma.
Fair. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
most people are talking little T trauma
Mhm.
when they talk about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The big T trauma is like the physical, sexual abuse, the mental, like the real problems, PTSD and all that kind of stuff.
The stuff I don't want to say that you can't overcome, but that is a lifelong journey to try
It
and
it, it,
overcome.
it, it is. It really is. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I, I know personally, I'm really bad at thinking about my life in chunks of time.
What do
So
you
like
mean?
there was when I was a kid, and there was when I
Okay.
was a teenager,
Yeah.
and then I was in school, and now I'm a parent, and I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do when I'm at the next chunk of my life?
Ooh.
You know what
Next
I mean?
chapter. What does that look like? Yeah.
But I don't think it's like a good way to go about it. It's a default thing. I don't. It's not part of a system that works.
Like to
It's
break your life up into chapters.
well because it means
Is that
that
what you mean?
I am willing to accept less now because I think in my brain that there's going to be better tomorrow, whenever tomorrow is, kind of thing.
Oh, interesting. Okay, okay, okay.
And I don't think I'm thinking
Is
about this
this
from the
like
point of
in
view.
lieu of investing now, hoping that things will be like,
So like from like let's talk about it from like a small t trauma point of view,
yeah,
and even the bigger T. I think when these things happen, or especially if it's like a moment in time event and not just like the little T trauma of
for
patterns
sure.
of behavior over time,
Okay,
kind of thing. Um, we live like before the thing happened and after the thing happened,
right.
and like
And
I'll never go back. Like I can't go back to normal. All I wanted is what you know what I mean. And
okay,
so when I'm saying I'm looking forward to that next chunk and I'm willing to accept less now, it means what if I'm unhappy, if I don't like my job, if whatever, I might just be like, okay, I don't want to do anything. I'll just suffer through this now. And I'm not talking about this is like the royal you. It's an
mm-hmm.
example.
A lot
Um,
of people do live in a in a current kind of shitty place with the expectation that things will be different later. I
yeah,
think that's a common
yeah, yeah, and I
thing.
think because of that,
Mm-hmm.
it's a not guaranteed that anything beyond right now is going to happen.
Fair.
So
Yep.
like if you've got plans, if you've got goals, if you got shit you want to get after, stop being miserable and go do it. But
Tomorrow
from
is not guaranteed, I think they
yeah,
say. Yeah.
and from a trauma
You're
point of
no,
view,
sorry, you are not promised tomorrow.
I don't think this is a healing tip or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Okay.
But what I want to suggest is that there is probably some form of thinking out there, and I think that's really all therapy is it's just
Okay.
showing you to think in different ways, see
Yeah.
things differently, understand how things relate to each other better, so you can kind of position yourself in and around all that, and feel a little bit better about yourself. And
That's
I
a very interesting way of interpreting and phrasing that, because yeah, that a lot of it is that, really, like, you can only see things through like your view, and then they're like, actually there's like 18 other pairs of glasses you can see shit through.
mhm,
Here they all are, and
yeah,
they don't present it like that,
number one or number two,
obviously.
number one or
Right.
number two,
Right. Yeah.
and it doesn't necessarily make the bad thing that happened go away, but
Mm-hmm.
what it might do is make you feel less guilty about it, make you feel less shamed about it, make you feel less than about it. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
I don't like the idea that there are people out there that feel bad about themselves, and I mean we all do, but there are
Mm-hmm.
people that truly think that they are just absolutely worthless and valueless, and I hate that because there have been moments I think we can all appreciate, when the dark thoughts are winning and you feel like shit, and it's not fun, and there's people that only exist like that because that's the only world they know. And when you're on the outside looking in, you're like, I don't get it. you know you're maybe you come from a great home and you got money and you weren't poor or anything like that, but what if no one hugged you? What if no one took you places? What
Sorry, I was
when
just gonna, like, sorry, on that same podcast, the guest that they had was talking about how, like, the reason he thinks he's a good comedian is because his parents were nothing doers. He's like, they literally, they had no, he's like, I don't know anybody like this. They don't have no interest. They don't do anything outside. They just come home. I don't even think they like each other. They just are married. So they're together. So they're just staying together. And he's like, they literally do nothing. They have no hobbies, no interest, nothing. They watch TV, the same couple shows that they've been watching for 30 years, and then turn the TV off, do the same routine, go to sleep, same thing over and over. He's like, I can't, he's like, I can't be this way. Like, I don't fit in at all. He's like, I did anything at all. And I was doing things not that way. Right. Like, take a different path to school. And it's like, oh my God, you threw off the whole like
Yeah.
makeup of things. But anyway, sorry. I feel like it was supporting what
Yeah,
you
no,
were
I
explaining.
agree.
Yeah.
I think that thought was pretty much concluded anyway. I keep just chasing the next part of my thoughts, and that's why I ramble. So I'm glad you interrupted.
Oh.
Yeah,
Sorry,
therapy.
that reminds me of Michael Scott too, where he's like, I just hope that it gets
I,
somewhere
I start.
eventually.
Sometimes I just start a sentence and I have no idea where it's going. I just hope I
Yeah,
find it along the
yeah,
way.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
almost poetic too. Oh man.
Truly, yeah.
But yeah, I think everyone's problems are all a matter of perspective, and therapy helps you see things differently.
Mm-hmm.
And so therapy can help any of your problems. And I would argue that most people's problems, it can be solved by them, barring like medical interventions that might be required.
Okay,
Um,
fair. Yeah,
like if you can,
like active addiction or maybe something like that.
or yeah, or like bipolar or something, you know what I mean, like
Okay,
neurochemically kind of
yeah.
balancing out kind of stuff. um and I think that's a hard one to appreciate. You can tell when someone is paralyzed from the waist down, but you can't tell when someone is paralyzed from the hemisphere over, you know what I mean? Like,
Right. Yeah.
it's everyone's brains are different.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're an organ too. We think we just let it talk to us, and we believe
We
everything
think
it
we're
says.
in control of it,
Yeah, no.
really. Yeah.
And I think that's like the starting point of all of those problems, is
Mm-hmm.
not being the observer of those thoughts.
Ah,
Because
yes.
you got to figure out which ones are actually yours, which ones are
Mm-hmm.
your parents, which ones are your friends, which ones are your bosses, which ones are societies. And
So
they're all telling you
true.
shit. But at the end of the day, um, if you can sort through that mess
Yeah.
and hear the real voice, which is your voice, and I mean the real voice too, because if your voice is saying mean things about you, it's not your voice.
Mm-mm.
It's not, that's someone else's. Like no one.
Somebody else placed that voice in you and veiled it, and it is veiled, and you think it's yours, but it's not. uh, we start to believe these weird things that people say to
Yeah, it's
us
like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
along the road. Yeah.
And people like, well, no one's going to tell you you're ugly, or they don't love you, or you're not worth their time, but
Sorry,
you're
very
going to.
cruel children will tell other children these things. I hear it on the bus all the time.
That's
I have to
true.
intervene constantly.
We don't use that
15
language.
kids, and I have to. Got nothing nice to say? Don't say anything.
Just start using
Stop
their
it.
words against them. What the
Well, and
skibbity Ohio Riz was that, Jacob?
oh, okay. Sorry. Speaking of which, I literally did this yesterday afternoon. Two of them, these two boys in middle school, just go back and forth with each other a lot. And like, I have them seated fairly far away from each other for this reason, because they will antagonize each other and it disturbs the whole bus because they're obnoxious about it. I think they both have ADHD. So they just, by the end of the day, their meds are wearing off. They just back and forth. Anyway, yesterday afternoon, it it had been maybe 30-35 seconds of them doing this, and I just like went over the PA and I was like, quit yapping at each other, it is so cringe, for real. And like, I got a few laughs, I did
Oh
get a few
man.
chuckles, and I was very appreciative of that, but I was like, if you if I can take the cringiness away from your conversation and make it me who's cringy because I know that me saying that is cringy, like, yes, please. And then it stopped. And I was like, thank you.
That's really good because it's like they're like, is that what I sound like?
Right. Hopefully. Yeah. Hopefully they have, it gives them, like you were saying, a little perspective, just a touch of perspective so that they can be like, "Ooh, whoa, we talk like that." I
Yeah,
was
it's
proud of myself
crazy.
for using the word yapping.
Yeah, that's a callback, I feel. You know, I
Mm.
feel like that's whatever the flapper ladies were called.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's that time frame. You know what I mean?
Oh, is it?
Like the Great Depression. The
Yapping.
heck? Quit yapping.
That's true. It's
I like it.
back.
I like it.
It's being
Um,
recycled or whatever.
you must be excited. So you're on holidays too, eh?
Oh, dude. Like, I was really bummed that we couldn't record last night because I was like, like I obviously I would prefer the episode come out on Fridays because that's kind of like what I have scheduled in my mind. But like at the end of the day, oh, it's fine.
Hmm.
Um, and it last night was a complete debacle. It was insanity. So
I'm
thank
glad
you.
we didn't do it. Yeah, that's great.
But then today I feel like I can have this sort of um well, I don't want to say more honest, but just like a clearer conversation.
Yeah, you're
My
a little bit more
mind is
present.
at
Yeah,
ease. Yeah,
yeah,
for
that's good
sure.
though. I'm happy.
Yeah. How
I'd
have
rather put
your
out
holidays been going?
good.
You started last
This has been my
weekend?
first week off.
First
Yeah,
week. Nice. Nice,
and
nice.
yeah, we definitely could have recorded sooner. I just kept forgetting to reach out and schedule. So that's why
No
I
worries.
feel a little
Yeah.
bad too.
No,
Uh,
no.
yeah, it's been a good week, and then Cassie works this weekend, and 3 days home next week, and then with the kids until the end of
Until
my
Jan 6th.
vacation. Yeah, which is I'm trying to treat this as an opportunity, and it's going to be so hard.
Yes.
But I
Well
want to
done.
come at this from a because I had this thought the other day. I was like, man, I really like I don't really view I don't compartmentalize my life very well. I don't think
Meaning,
so. Like I'll be, the kids will be home, Cassie's at
mm-hmm.
work,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of me being just in say dad mode,
Yep.
I'm still trying to be Colin, I'm still trying to be husband, I'm still trying to be dad, and I'm still trying to chase whatever pursuits my ADHD brain decides to sprinkle in there.
Oh, I see. You're not like focusing
So I always
on the
feel that constant
specific.
pull between all of them instead of just being happy doing one of them.
Yes.
Pardon me. And so I usually, approach time with my children as planned, dedicated, gotta find it. You know what I mean? Instead of
Yep.
just every opportunity is an opportunity.
Yeah.
I so I've been spending a lot more time
Okay.
just in general with them. Um,
Nice.
if they want to play a game or whatever, I'll play a game with them instead of. It's going to be harder when it's
Scheduling time for
yeah,
them because the
yeah.
time that you schedule isn't always going to be the time that they need you
Well,
either.
and that's it too. Like I don't want them to think that spending time with me is something that needs to be figured out.
Mm-hmm.
I just want them to take it for granted. Dad hangs out with
Mm-hmm.
us. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing.
Totally. Yeah.
So I don't know. I think compartmentalization is a good thing. I just think it made me realize that it was adding a bit of tension that I didn't need. So I'm just getting
Right.
better at doing the thing I'm doing and just forgetting the rest kind of thing. And I think
Okay.
the reason why I try to hold on to the rest is because like you, I'll forget it. And I'm just really, really worried that I'm going to forget what I was supposed to do next. Or especially like, you got a job, you got a partner, you got children, like there's people counting on you. There are
Mm-hmm.
people, sometimes it's not a big thing, but every time you forget to do something when someone asks you to do it, it feels like a big thing. You feel like an absolute failure. So that's more like context for people listening. I think many people would probably experience something similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I'm going to see how good I can be at just hanging out with them, being chill, and not getting impatient. I get impatient because I get bored a lot.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Like a game William and I played today was we were on a quest. We found a Pokemon book in the library. It's
Okay.
just an alphabetical catalog of like 250 Pokemon,
Yeah.
and we went through page by page, and we selected our Pokeball that
Okay.
was imaginary,
Yeah.
and we tried to catch Pokemon.
That sounds like fun, a little monotonous, but like
Well, he was fucking loving it,
I was gonna say he probably enjoyed it so much.
and
Yeah.
I was fucking bored.
Uh, I don't want to say this is my tactic, but in those moments, I think of how can I phrase this properly so that it makes sense. I think about like what they need from me in that
Hmm.
moment so that they get I don't say the full experience, but like um the opportunity to gain from their interaction with me what they need.
Yeah,
And I'm not like structuring it, you know, like you said, like I'm not micromanaging it. It's just like often they come to you and they're like, "Can you play with me?" And sometimes it's just for connection, but sometimes like and there's a really great nanny on TikTok actually that breaks it down, so maybe I can shout her out. I can't remember her name, but I'll look it up later.
is it Nanny McPhee?
No.
Damn.
But she simplifies all of these interactions with the girl that she nannies. And she's like, you don't have to do hours and hours of play. She's like, if you're not really into pretend play, like, she shows you different types of pretend play that are really beneficial. And she's like, you can actually start to help their internal world develop in a positive way by doing this pretend play with them. So she like used an example of like her playing with the little doll and the girl playing with the little doll and like how they interacted together. She was like teaching her manners
Right.
sort of and like
Oh yeah, I see. Just like an
you know,
example of
yeah, just like, oh, can I have some water too? And then if the little girl was like, no, you can't have any water, and she's like, oh, okay, well, if you're
bitch.
serving, yeah, like kids are gonna say mean things, and like so to in a way like teach her empathy and things like that, like she'll go on and try and like teach, I don't say us, but like the people watching, the viewers, um a positive way of spinning that interaction around. So instead of being like, oh well, that's very rude, you know,
Yeah.
um saying like, oh gosh, I'm really thirsty, I think I need to go find some water, you know, and then taking her little character and being like, oh, where might there be water and stuff like
Oh,
that.
okay. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
just like you were saying in therapy kind of, and I don't know if this is like a therapy based thing, type of play for kids, but they learn a lot through play. And so how you interact with them when you're doing different activities, I think is imprinting on them in subconscious ways, I'm sure.
I think so too.
um and then they're also getting that interaction with you, and they're learning how to play with others and sharing and all these things. So um as she said, short bouts of time are super impactful, more than we realize even.
Yeah, I've been doing a
So
lot of that, which is
over the course of the next couple of weeks, you'll probably see that a bunch where they'll like be gaining stuff from you. Like I think that's what makes it exhausting, is that you're an active teacher in these
y-
moments. Like
it's a
as parents,
terrifying
we're
concept.
active
Yeah.
teachers. Yeah, and we're like trying to instill in them all of these things, and it can be exhausting, I think, because you're like juggling the
Oh,
mental
that's funny.
load of what are they
Mhm.
getting from this and how can I play with you and how can I teach you this moral and how to be a good person with these two little people from
These
from
two little
Hasbro.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get your own
Right?
today.
Yeah.
I got the ones that
I was
poop, wet,
rambling,
and
sorry.
cry. I don't know which
Poop
ones
wet.
you got. They're the automatic ones.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ours came with the Barbie house, so they just hang out there, you know.
Um. Fuck, I can't remember what I was gonna say now. That's a really. That's it. I think that's a really. I'll say reassuring
Mm-hmm.
point that it doesn't have to be huge amounts of time. Because then I'll feel
Totally.
bad. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh fuck, am I spending enough time? Blah blah blah. Blah.
I
And there's
think
days
she's
too
the
where you
one
just
who said it was like 12 minutes a day that your kids ultimately need. Like 12 real minutes. Not just like 12 minutes where you're sitting there and being like
yeah.
watching time go by. Like 12 present minutes.
I can
Minimum,
definitely
minimum. You
do.
could do
Oh
more.
fuck. I was gonna say I could definitely hook them up with 12 minutes a day.
You're like setting a timer. You're like, okay, I'm
Beep beep beep
in.
beep 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 beep
Yeah.
beep. All right, Dad's gone. Colin's home. Go hide.
I'm going to the bathroom.
Dude.
Sick. Colin just, for the listeners, Colin just solved a Rubik's Cube. He is
Yeah, I know.
now trained to do
I'm.
so.
I was gonna say I'm as smart as Will Smith, but I might want to wait for the investigations to be complete.
Are they still investigating that?
I'm assuming. I have
Oh,
no idea.
okay. Yeah.
Until someone comes out and says yes or no, I'm assuming
Right.
it's still going on.
Right.
I'm just so glad I'm not a celebrity. I could have been. I'm so glad I turned it down.
Truly. Yeah. Aren't we
Brutal.
all
Well, we're someone's celebrity.
someone? I think I'm my spouse's celebrity. I'm just gonna put that out there.
I was really arrogant. Just fucking kidding. Oh man, yeah,
He's
you should
mine.
be.
He's my celeb. What? What do you
Yeah, for
mean?
sure. I get
Yeah.
excited every time I see Cassie, and she ignores me just like a celebrity. So
You should pretend. I was thinking about doing this. Okay. Good idea or bad idea? This is a concept I've been contemplating. There's these photographers on TikTok every year they dress up as the paparazzi for Halloween and they
oh
go around
yeah,
taking
yeah.
pictures of people in costume. I was thinking of doing this in some way with my kids to kind of like they don't even know what paparazzi is, so they don't have like a concept of that, but like I have a camera and I think it'd be really cute to just like run around and take pictures of, oh my god, Isla, I can't believe you're doing this right now. What do you want to say about it today? We're so interested in everything. You know what I mean? Like just being their biggest fan, but like
Yeah,
really obnoxious level about it.
fangirling them. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, is that good or bad? Am I inflating an ego of a child unnecessarily, or am I boosting like what do we think?
Ooh, you know what? First of all, really great question.
Okay.
I really like
Thanks.
what a phenomenal question, and thank you for asking. Thank you for bringing that up. Fucking politicians. Anyway,
Direct quote.
I think the sort of guiding principle that I'm using is, am I creating memories with these kids
Okay.
when I'm with them? And like, I mean, to your earlier point, it's not always a lot. Sometimes it's, with Olivia especially, I just try to be as fantastical as possible, and she loves it.
Okay.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Just
I
crazy
feel like
shit.
she's into big event, like big
Big,
picture
big,
stuff.
big.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's fucking crazy. And then yeah, it all really boils down to, like, am I making memories? If you're talking about doing something that they're gonna enjoy,
Right.
they're gonna remember it, they're gonna have fun doing it,
Yeah.
and it's gonna, let's be honest, it's gonna put a few extra points in the bank for you.
Okay.
Um, Like, I mean, it's a win-win situation in my mind. I don't
Okay.
think you're setting them up because you're asking the question in isolation. In
Okay.
isolation.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
it's not that you're doing that one thing that they're gonna grow up to be fucking Kardashians. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You're also
Gosh,
like,
are we sure?
who knows?
Right. Yeah.
It's unlikely.
It is
Unlikely.
unlikely. Yeah.
And I would suggest that that's because like you mentioned earlier, you're present in a lot of other ways,
Okay.
and you're helping them see what it means to carry yourself like a respectable human being and
Okay. Okay.
interact with people in healthy and constructive ways. So yeah, I definitely think you should do it.
Well, okay.
I just don't know if you're
It's
talking about
settled.
your kids or the school bus kids,
Oh, no. Yeah. My biological children.
your own children. Yeah, probably a
No,
safe place to start.
I can't do that on the bus. Oh gosh, what did I do that they just like all lost their minds? Oh, I've been I feel like I have to backstory this a little bit. On Halloween, I put window cling on the windows, and my middle school students all thought it'd be funny to peel them off and move them around and throw them out the window and stuff like this.
The school bus
S-
windows.
yes, yeah.
Okay, not your
And
home.
correct. And so they kind of ruined it for me,
Oh,
and I was like, okay, window clings no more. I got uh, last year I used chalk markers on the windows, but when they get damp because of the condensation in the winter, the pictures would kind of like melt.
right.
So I was like, chalk's not gonna work. I got acrylic paint markers, so I just have to use like a nail polish remover to get it off after, because it's the same more or less
Right.
um, process of removing it. Anyway, and but it stays, and like if they want to, they can scratch it off. Like if they want to be real goofballs about it, they can. But
Couple
it
of
actually,
yappers.
yeah, it actually stayed up, and so I did that for the holidays, and then this week, um, I was like feeling like it's the last week before Christmas. Let's add some things. And so, for a couple of the older students who didn't really have a lot on their windows, I drew stockings and put their names on them.
Oh, nice.
And then a couple other kids were like, I don't have a stocking with my name on it. What do you mean? And so I asked them all, I said, do you all want stockings with your names on them? And they were like, yes, we do. Oh my God. And I was like, holy shit. Okay. Like, clearly it's a unanimous yes. They got so excited. So I did. Um, and what was my point with this? Oh, yeah. They all just lose their minds sometimes collectively altogether. So I can't just like, I can't allow them the opportunity to do that too much. Sorry. Um, because I think it'll one lose its luster, if you will,
Yeah.
and two, those kids can be crazy if you let them. So you can't let them do that very much,
No.
if at all. Yeah. Yeah. Moral of the story.
Yeah. Kids are barely people.
They really aren't.
Yeah,
I've
like they haven't passed basic training yet. You know what I mean?
totally, yeah. Like their brain cells are actively forming still. It's just not. They're not capable. Yeah, it just
Like there's like Children of the Corn, like these children only societies in like
oh
fiction writing.
yes, okay,
I feel like a great book would be like Lord of the Flies kind of deal,
okay, yeah,
but like sort of Children of the Corn meets Lord of the Flies, where they've already established themselves and are surviving,
okay,
almost thriving, but
mm-hmm,
it's still a bit of a survival situation, and it's just children being incapable of being adults. So like the stupid arguments they'd
yeah.
have, their terrible solutions to problems, their inability to cope with their emotions. It would be so
They
funny.
did a real life thing like this. Okay, hang on. Did I send this to you? I might have.
Petetra, I don't remember. For those of you wondering, yes, that was French for maybe. I don't want to brag, but I said
This one?
I speak un peu de French.
When was this? Where's this to when? Okay. I don't know if this is the one that I saw. I'm hoping it is. There was a was it a documentary? Back in the heyday of reality TV, one reality show in the UK placed 10 boys and 10 girls in separate houses to look after themselves without adult supervision.
What?
The children, all aged 11 or 12, were provided with food, money, toys, and cleaning equipment for the experiment, quote unquote. But other than that, they were left to their own devices with the proviso that the crew would intervene if there were any issues of safety. The girls were filmed the whole time with the footage broadcast in the UK Channel 4 documentary. Sorry, the kids were filmed the whole time with the footage broadcast in the UK Channel 4 documentary Boys and Girls Alone. There was a stark difference between how the boys and girls behaved. While the girls cooked, cleaned, and organized a fashion show for entertainment purposes, the boys set about immediately trashing the house and writing on the walls. The boys separated after a few days into two groups, sleeping in two different bedrooms, who would then attempt to antagonize each other. Sorry, I'm laughing because
They formed
I'm
like clubs
picturing,
and shit.
yeah, I'm picturing the two guys on my bus like arguing, and I can picture them being in these two separate groups. One group decided to keep the other group awake after they decided to have an early night, constantly trying to enter the room and make loud noises. An argument broke out between the boys after one of the boys' t shirts was painted and covered in shaving cream, but beyond a few minor arguments and annoyances, nobody was hurt. An early moment of tension for the girls came when a neighbor's cat entered the house and they all attempted to take care of it. That's not to say the girls lived without their share of drama, though they moved all the beds into one room and cooked and ate together. The girls did end up mildly bullying each other, and two of the girls ultimately decided to leave the house before the experiment was over. While interesting to watch, you can't extrapolate a lot from the experiment given the presence of cameras and nature and the nature of the experiment. There have been real life examples of children becoming isolated, including one in 1965 when six boys attempted to run away and boat to Fiji. Unfortunately, they fell asleep at some point after stealing and getting in a boat, became stranded on a small island for 15 months.
Whoa.
Before they were rescued, the boys created a schedule for duties around their camp. They created musical instruments to entertain themselves and attempted to make their own raft. One of the boys fell off a cliff and broke his leg during their stay. The boys set his legs using sticks and took care of him until he recovered.
That's fucking intense, yo.
I never heard of that. Also, is that what Lord of the Flies was based on?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't
When
think
was Lord of the Flies written?
when was this Fiji trip?
1965.
Oh damn. I think Lord of the Flies was before that.
Published. It was September 17th, 1954. Maybe they read it and they were like,
yeah,
let's
we could
go.
totally do this.
Yeah, we're going to do this way better.
Fuck, that's a great movie. Like, that's a great movie idea. I'd pay to see that movie. A couple of fucking idiots.
What was it? Castaway?
That was a great movie.
Castaway was a award-winning performance.
Well
Is it not?
said. I think so. One of my favorite memes. Go ahead.
Oh. Well, I was going to say I saw it in middle school with classmates, and it was not the movie you go see when you're in middle school.
No, what the
classmates.
Fuck? Seriously.
we did not know. We were just like, oh, cool. And then 3 hours later, we were like, wow, that was the longest movie.
Guess who's never getting on a plane? Especially if I have an upcoming dentist appointment.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy.
Fucking brutal. That's disgusting. You think your life is bad some days, and you're like, you know what? Good to go. Not stranded on an island, shoving a skate in my mouth, trying to do dental surgery.
Mm-hmm. No bueno.
No bueno. And on that note,
Yes, friends.
we're over time.
We're way over time.
We stayed up so late.
we're we're burning the midnight oil, so to speak. You know. Where did that expression come from? I'm sorry, I have to look this up quickly. I know it has something to do with lamps. Burn the midnight oil is to work late into the. I know, but where did it come from? Origin. The phrase burning the midnight oil originated as a reference to the oil used in lamps to light homes before electricity. The phrase is an idiom that means to work late or study into the night.
That didn't
So
explain
simple.
anything.
I know, it kind of. The noun midnight oil has been used since the 17th century. I guess it's just an idiom. Referring to the act of burning oil in lamps for light and safety. That's it.
Light and safety.
Just burning oil into the night. Super late, wasting resources.
That's so lame. What a terrible explanation.
Yeah, I feel like could we have made up a backstory or something to make it a little bit more
Yeah, spice it up a little.
spicy? Yeah.
I learned that, I don't know how obvious this one is, but Sam Adams is Uncle Sam.
Who's Sam Adams?
Like Sam Adams beer.
Stop.
Yeah, so that guy was a real guy.
Yes.
And I feel like he was the one that kind of started the Boston Tea Party.
Okay.
But I feel like he's the one that became Uncle Sam. Like they started calling him Uncle Sam, or someone was calling him Uncle Sam.
Whoa.
I don't know what's going on, but
I don't know. I wasn't
pretty sure that's what it is.
Wow.
And no, that's a way better, if it's true, a way better story than
much more better.
What does midnight oil come from? When they used to burn oil at midnight.
Just literally they burned oil at midnight.
Yeah.
To work late at night.
So
okay.
Boring.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. That's it. And
all right.
Also for us, that's it.
That is it.
Yep.
Till
next time.
When's next
we'll have
time?
We'll have to do. I don't want to say we'll have to. It would be ideal if we did an ep like maybe Boxing Day or the day after, so that we can keep on a more or less weekly schedule.
I could do that.
Schedule.
So, but we're not. Are we recording? Are we going to drop an episode? Is this one going to go out tomorrow or?
Yeah. Okay. Let's do it.
And are we going to do an episode next week?
Yes. Because we all have such ample time right now.
Mm-hmm. So we'll plan to.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to go.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
And leave comments and give us feedback and all the things. Yeah.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Bye, everybody.
Toodles.
Okay. I will post that in the morning.